Let's dive into the defense, Ryan. And we don't have as many keys in this one because this is a bit more of a mismatch, in my opinion, than we've seen on the other side of the ball. I think the Notre Dame offense has a talent advantage over Miami of Ohio, certainly,
Right.
but they have not played to the way where you expect them, where I assume, I should say, they're going to take advantage and roll Miami of Ohio. They got to prove it. This side of the ball is a little bit different. And unlike Northern Illinois, this is, yes, MAC team. You know, there's a couple offensive skill players I really like for Miami of Ohio. They got a veteran quarterback, sound familiar, that's accurate throwing the football. Sound familiar. It's a lot like the kid at Northern Illinois, except this kid has way more experience. The difference is that overall Miami not even philosophically, what they're good at is just not what Notre Dame's not good at. And that's what's true against Northern Illinois. Notre Dame's not a great run defense, and Northern Illinois was a pretty good running football team. Big veteran offensive line, very talented running back. We've been talking about him for a while now, and their strengths kind of win against what Notre Dame's not their strength. This is an exact opposite. This is a team that hasn't run the ball well. They throw the ball effectively. So there's not a lot of variety of keys. It's kind of do what you do. But here's three things that that we're going to dive into that you look at and say, this is the key to really not just winning, but dominating the way that they need to dominate. And number one is shut down the run game. Now, that's going to sound kind of like they suck at running the football. Exactly.
Yeah, really
because what you can't do is come out in a game. What was that?
They're really bad at it.
They've got 64 yards in 2 games.
I was going to say they're averaging like 32 yards a carry and like 1.4 yards a carry. Like they're very bad at running the football.
They're very different than they were last year, where they were a decent running team. You know, they averaged over 150 yards a game. Rashad Amos was a 1,000-yard runner last season.
Who transferred to be the fourth string for Ole Miss for some reason.
Never understand some of these kids, but you know, whatever. He's got 5 carries in 2 games for Ole Miss, so probably wasn't real smart. But they're not very good at running the football, Ryan. And what the reason that's key number one is because when a team's not good at something, don't let them have success at that. The only chance Miami of Ohio has is to have some semblance of balance. You have to be disciplined and you have to dominate that part of the game and make them one-dimensional. They don't want to be one-dimensional, Ryan. They have to be. This isn't like a Hal Mummy offense from back in the day or a Mike Leach air raid where they don't care about running the football. They'd like to be able to run the football. They just can't. And you've got to make sure that continues and come out and shut that down. First down dominant. Keep them in second and long, third and long all game, because if you do, they have no chance. And I thought after 2 games they were just kind of average against the run against A&M. They were bad stopping the run against Northern Illinois. They did dominate Purdue's ground game. Now you just need to, now you've got it figured out. Now you got to keep that thing rolling. And if you shut down this run game, I don't think Miami has much of a chance because they're going to just be in so many long down and distance situations. And then Notre Dame's pass rush gets to pin its ears back. And that's not good news for Miami.
Again, I don't think that you guys can do the work yourself here, right? 32 yards a game on 22 carries a game. That is 1.4 yards per carry. Like they are and yes, that is lost yardage due to sacks that are put into that total. But guys, their leading ball carrier is averaging like 1 point something yards a carry right now. It's like 13 carries for 23 yards or something like that. Like it is wildly inefficient how bad they are at running the football. And don't let someone be something they're not against you. Ultimately, keep a weakness a weakness. Whatever cliche you want to throw out there, they are a terrible running team. Like they're just a very poor running team. And ultimately, it isn't just stopping the run in a vacuum. Brett Gabbert is a rhythm-based player, right? So what does rhythm work off of? Well, it's run the football, RPO game, run the football, play action game. That's when Brett Gabbert is at his best. When you don't give him a run game, it becomes a lot harder for him to be an efficient thrower of the football. Stop the run game. That is the main area of success. If you stop the run game and shut it down and let it be what it's just been the last couple games, Notre Dame's going to feast defensively. Like there's no reason to think they won't.
To back up your point, Ryan, that if you take sacks out, right? So Miami of Ohio on the season is only averaging 1.4 yards per carry. If you take sacks out, they had a minus 16-yard gain from their kicker. They've downed it a couple times. If you take all that out, and you just look at their top 4 running backs, because their quarterbacks have a combined total of 12 carries for minus 13 yards, because their backup quarterback has plus 13. Their running backs are only averaging 3.2 yards per carry. I mean, their highest yard per carry average is a guy that's at 4.5, and he only has 4 carries. Right, their leading rusher from a yard standpoint is at 4.1. Their leading rusher from a carry standpoint, as you mentioned, Keon Mosey, is 1.9. Right, shut it down. Just shut it down. And that leads us into number 2 is if Blaine Gabbert's comfortable. You mentioned he's a rhythm passer. He's a 6th-year senior. Brett Gabbert. Did I say Blaine?
Yeah, Blaine. Yeah.
Did I? Yeah. That's the older brother. Brett Gabbert, I've joked about this, Ryan. I don't know if you were in the show at this point in time. I said, but this is how old he is. He started for 2 years in college football at a time when Ian Book was Notre Dame starting quarterback.
So Blaine Gabbert was playing when he was in college. It was crazy.
Yeah. So Brett's been around for a while. He's over 8,400 career passing yards. He's not an elite talent. He's a smart veteran quarterback. And props to him for staying at Miami of Ohio, because he probably could have had some Power 5 or some bigger group of 5 schools after him, but he stayed at Miami of Ohio. When he's sitting in the pocket and comfortable, he's smart, he's decisive, he's accurate throwing the football. When he's not comfortable in the pocket, even as a 6-year senior, he's going to make mistakes. And you saw it first drive of the Cincinnati game last week. Right, nobody's open at first. He starts running around and he just lobs the ball in the middle of the field into double coverage, gets picked off. Right, I mean, speed, and that's true for a lot of core. You speed his process up, and he's going to be in trouble. They've given up 7 sacks in the first 2 games, and you've got to get him uncomfortable, because if he's not comfortable, and let's just go to it now, Ryan, and talk about it. We'll put them together. If he's not comfortable, key number 3 is don't let 11 and don't let 0 beat you. 11 is Cade McDonald. That's the slot receiver who's very dynamic, has 8 catches in each of the first 2 games, has been over 100 yards in each of the first 2 games against Power 4 teams. And then Reggie Virgil's caught a 50-yard touchdown pass. The guy fell down, but he'd already had the guy beat on that post route touchdown last week. Big 6'4" kid. They can hurt you if the quarterback has time to throw. If he doesn't have time to throw, you not only force mistakes by Brett Gabbert, but you also eliminate any chance of those guys really making enough plays on you to keep this thing competitive. That's the only chance they really have, is to get those 2 kids rolling in the pass game. And if you get Brett Gabbert out of rhythm, he's not only going to make mistakes, but he's going to be less accurate getting them the football. So those 2 keys kind of go together, Ryan. And again, you shut that down. It could be just as bad as last week, where they don't cross midfield until the second. I mean, think about that. Purdue never crossed midfield against Notre Dame's first team defense last week, despite getting the ball 2 times near midfield to start possessions. They got one at the 37, and I think one started at the 42, and they still couldn't cross midfield. It could be like that if you're able to. Yeah, it could be like that again, Ryan, if you're able to get consistent pressure, be smart, be sound in the secondary, but get consistent pressure, get Gabbert uncomfortable with your coverage looks, and then also the pressure from the front 7.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm gonna make a. I don't even know if I should make this comparison, because this might be a little mean. But have you ever seen the movie Twins? You've seen Twins, I'm sure, right? So
With
Blaine Gabbert is
Schwarzenegger, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, Blaine Gabbert is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Brett Gabbert is Danny DeVito. One guy got all the talent, the other guy is very smart, right? So that's what Brett Gabbert is.
That Brett's not a criminal, right? So
he's not a criminal. Oh no, I'm sure he's a very nice man.
Not a criminal like Danny DeVito was in that movie, but
yeah. Oh man, it's so funny to see the 2 next to each other, because one's 6'5", 225, toolsy as all heck, but kind of a bonehead as a football player, and the other one's 6 foot, 205, not very athletic, but does all the right things on the field as far as being pretty sound with his understanding of playing the game of football. It's pretty hilarious to watch. But ultimately, 6 foot, 205, not incredibly athletic, not incredibly dynamic, not a huge arm. If you put Brett Gabbert in conflict, he is going to make some poor decisions. He's going to make some mistakes, and you can get to him. And that was one of the coolest things that I saw last week was, yes, the whole defense played well, but one of the things that I was most excited about coming out last week is that you started to see the pass rush come to the forefront a little bit. You started to see Boubacar Traore. You start to see some of the interior guys kind of flash a little bit more. You start to see Bryce Young. You start to see some of these guys really start to put it together as far as getting to the quarterback more consistently and efficiently. That had been something that just wasn't enough of
Yeah.
in the first couple games. Get to this quarterback, get him out of rhythm. Don't let him get the ball out of his hand in a clean, concise manner. Make him have to break the pocket, make him have to try to create out a structure because, like Hudson Card, much different players. Hudson Card's a much more athletic player than a Brett Gabbert, but they're both rhythm-based passers at the end of the day. And if you break their rhythm, they are going to make mistakes. They are going to make bad decisions out of conflicts. If you make that happen with Brett Gabbert, I think that Notre Dame is going to have a very successful
And you
successful
also,
day
I knew,
defensively.
yeah. We also, Ryan, saw the Notre Dame linebackers starting to time their blitzes a little bit better, a little bit
Yep.
more effective. And that's going to hopefully continue as these younger players get more and more comfortable in
All,
what they want
all,
to do.
all aboard the Kingston Viliamo Asa hype train,
Yeah.
by the way. All aboard. All
So
aboard.
Ryan, when you look at this, obviously the big key to wrap it up is you just limit the if you do these things, you limit the big plays. And limiting the big plays is the key to shutting this team down because they are not anywhere close to good enough
Yep.
to just marching up and down the field in the way that Northern Illinois is. They don't have the line, they don't have the talent at running back, they don't have the scheme to run like they should in any way to really run this ball up and down the field. And even though Northern Illinois was getting just field goals, they were still moving the ball, eating up clock, those type of things. The only chance that I think they have to win this football game is big plays. And if you do the things we talked about,
Yeah.
you shut down those big plays because I do think they have a couple of receivers that are capable of making a couple big plays, and a couple I can live with. What you can't have is 4, 5, 6 big plays where they just completely flip the field or keep the chains moving and have that lack of success. I would like to think that that's not going to happen because of mistakes in the secondary because the secondary's been pretty good so far. I mean, Notre Dame hasn't missed a beat at corner as good as Cam Hart was last year. I mean, they haven't missed a beat at corner. Don Schuler's been pretty good so far this season, and Xavier Watts is Xavier Watts. I mean, this is. I talked about this yesterday, Ryan. Last thing to discuss, I want to get your opinion on this. This is by far the biggest matchup or the most important matchup for Jordan Clark so far. Because I thought he's played solid football the first 2 weeks, but nobody's really gone at him. They're going to go at him in this game, not because of they don't think he can play, but their best player is going to be matched up on him all game long in Cade McDonald.
I think so. And I think the big thing too is that, I mean, pressure is obviously going to play into this effect, right? But ultimately, like the Notre Dame's secondary is just so good, man. I mean, Rod Hurd is also like the perfect third safety. Like he has made some flash plays, and he's just been a good addition to that room as well overall. And Christian Gray, man, if he can squeeze a football, bro, like he'd be one of the best interception leaders in college football. I literally sent there was a hilarious quick side note. There was a hilarious picture of Christian almost intercepting the one last year against Jamal Edgerine, where like he looked in agony after he dropped the ball, and I sent it to Sean DeGray because I'm just like, man, you got to tell him to squeeze it. You got to tell him to squeeze.
Like, I mean, he's almost had 3 pick sixes so far this year. Right? He almost had 2 against A&M, and he almost had another one last week.
It's crazy, and ultimately, even though the McDonald kid's a good player and they have a couple good wide receivers, Al Golden in this Notre Dame defense is still going to be aggressive, and they're going to say man to man, see what you got. If they win, they win ultimately. So, yeah, Jordan Clark's going to have a nice assignment this week. I think he's talented enough, obviously, to come out on the winning end there, but you should definitely keep an eye on the slot because that's going to be an early matchup to watch. If Miami, Ohio has any hope of making a couple big plays in the passing game, it's probably going to be predicated on the slot early. So that's definitely a matchup to watch.
I just want to get this information out there, Ryan, because I think it's just fascinating. As good as we talked about how good Cam Hart was last week, but when you look at the numbers for Christian Gray this year, I'm actually trying to find it, or pull it up. But Pro Football Focus is not. Oh, here we go. In 3 games so far this year, Christian Gray has allowed 6 receptions on 12 targets for 34 yards.
Okay.
He gave up 29 yards in the first game. I would say a couple of those were, I don't know that I would agree that they were on him. They were more short throws in kind of the no cover zone.
Yep.
But in 3 games, he's given up 34 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that means you're on
pretty
pace
good,
to give
man.
up like 150 yards in the regular season.
I've already had a couple agents reach out to me and be like, "Who the heck is 29?" It's like, you'll know about it very soon.
Absolutely. So Ryan, that's going to do it for the keys to victory on defense. We're going to get to predictions here in a minute and knock that out. But before we do, folks, Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this podcast, give us a 5-star review on your favorite platform, and of course, go to boards.breakdown.com. Sign up for that. Check that out. I have my run game breakdown up already. I've got the 2 videos produced. I'm going to do 2 Notre Dame pass game breakdown videos, Ryan. I'm going to talk about their third down offense. I'm going to talk about how effective Mike Denbrock was using motion to get some big plays in that game. And then also I'm going to break down a couple missed opportunities from the game and what we need to see from the quarterback to take advantage. There's 3 big missed opportunities in the game on Saturday in the pass game that if Riley Leonard can start pulling the trigger on those, this offense could take off, and I'll break those down on that pass breakdown as well. That'll be up later tonight, and we'll get rocking and rolling. So check that out at boards.breakdown.com.